tech companies move at the pace of lightning speed, but it seems that legal disputes never do, Matt. How quickly could this be resolved? What's the next step?
Yeah, so the next step is an appeal from the European Commission's decision that goes through the General Court in Luxembourg, and appeals will take about 2 years, maybe a little bit more for something as complex as the current case. And then after that, there's another opportunity to appeal, and that kind of supreme appeal could take another 2 years. So, 5 years if people keep fighting and there's no ultimate resolution, which looks like the way things are going at this juncture.
David, you're talking to technology chief executives, leaders of business. Is this something that therefore puts perhaps decisions on where to place oneself in the next 5 years at risk? Or is it all now focus on Donald Trump, of course, the next president, potentially helping companies repatriate some of this money, maybe have less of these problems?
Well, certainly, there's a very strong, enthusiastic view in business generally, which you guys have reported on a lot on TV in the last few days and weeks. But I think there is another trend happening, which is that there's a kind of a global shift in the attitude towards really large commercial entities and really large global businesses, and it's more critical, it's more skeptical, and I think what we're seeing with the EU's kind of barrage of assaults on the barrage on these big internet companies, of which this Apple tax case is just one instance. We also see a lot of big investigations and fines against Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. I think it's a shift that's really tied even to the whole inequality discussion, that the big companies are going to have a higher standard of behavior they're going to have to follow. So companies need to be thinking about it in those terms.
Matt, while we let David grab some water, do you agree? What does this have an effect on the other companies? We know that Starbucks, IKEA, other companies are being analysed by the European Commission.
Yeah, certainly. As we're looking for decisions coming out in the Amazon.com investigation, there's one going on for McDonald's. A lot of the multinational conglomerates and companies that set up subsidiaries or operating companies in Ireland are able to take advantage of some disparate tax laws and advantages that maybe smaller corporations can't, or it doesn't make sense for them to operate in that manner. We talked about this being a little bit of a tech phenomenon. Tech has the advantage of being able to license intellectual property across subsidiaries and move revenue into low tax jurisdictions that way, or take advantage of some of the perceived loopholes like at issue in the Apple case. And so I think you get a little bit of a sense of, when you're looking at the regulators, maybe there's somewhat of an injustice here because of the way that intellectual property is taxed, because of the way that these large multinationals can move their pieces around the chessboard. And it is a question as to, there's all this revenue sitting overseas, it should be taxed somewhere. The question is, how is it taxed and where should it be taxed?
And Matt, will it be remaining overseas? What does this mean for tax reform, for changes coming from then President-elect Donald Trump?
I think that's a great question. Trump has made comments about having a one-time repatriation, trying to encourage tech companies to bring those dollars back to the U.S. The Senate has previously considered a patent tax box, which would allow companies to tax revenues on intellectual property differently than they do corporate revenues. And that would provide some incentive to essentially establish IP licensing subsidiaries or IP licensing units in the U.S., which may be beneficial. There are always R&D offsets and tax credits that can be given. So I think it advances the discussion, especially when you see the huge numbers, in the tens of billions of dollars that are potentially going untaxed by, what we think of as U.S.-based companies. I think that really moves the ball forward on the policy side.
Matt Larson, always great to get your viewpoint. Bloomberg Intelligence, thank you very much indeed. And David Kirkpatrick, sticking with us for now. We're going to be tackling a new subject. It's another stock we've been watching. Shares of Nintendo tumbling more than 7% in Tokyo. That's after lukewarm reviews for Super Mario Run. The game was supposed to be a watershed moment for Nintendo, marking its first foray into the world of mobile gaming. But the title, which is currently only on Apple devices, has an average rating of, get this, 2.5 stars out of 5. Users are complaining that the $10 price tag to unlock the game is too steep. Still with us, it's David Kirkpatrick, CEO of Techonomy. 2.5 stars. What do you think's behind it?
Well, I'm not shocked that this game isn't getting a really welcoming reception, because if you think about the world we're in, you really have to do something fundamentally different on this new platform of the smartphone. And the reason that Pokemon Go, of course, which Nintendo was closely associated with, did so well is that it was really a fundamentally new use of the smartphone, putting, augmented reality functions into a game and getting people out in the streets, and really a whole new kind of human behavior as a result of the game. This is just taking a good old Nintendo game and sticking it on the smartphone. It doesn't strike me as hugely innovative.
So does the star rating matter? What does Nintendo do? Do they drop the $10?
Well, I think they're going to get pressure to either drop the price or do something better with the product, but that's something they can't do overnight. So probably it wouldn't at all surprise me if the price went down. A 2.5-star rating is very negative. It's more that it reflects that the word on the street is really negative, and that's what's really going to hurt them. They're just not going to sell a lot at $10 a piece.